that they put in here. It's got a brass pivot lock, and if you're not careful, if you push this down accidentally, it'll take your fingernail off very fast. Some of the heads even have built-in spirit levels on them. This one's got 2 different spirit levels on the 30-38. So if you want to level something up just perfect, you can look at this. You don't have to worry about if your legs are level or not, because you're on a ball head. You just rotate it to where both your bubbles there are level, and then you know your camera's dead level, both directions. And I have never thought one tripod's ever going to do the job for all situations. So I don't have just one.
Questions, because if not, I know Curtis brought some tripods in.
Well, I'll show you my favorite tripod ever. It's right there. So I like to show this to people because it's cheap and it's very portable. So this is a thumb screw. I think they're 39 cents. And you just thread it at the bottom of your camera. The string length is whatever your inseam is, and you just step on the washer. Put this in the bottom of your camera, and then you just gently lift up on your camera body when you're shooting. And it's really handy at kids' sporting events and things. And it just acts, it uses your entire body as a vibration dampener. And when you get all done, you just roll it up and put it back in your pocket. So it's kind of a cool deal. I'll pass it around so you guys can kind of look at the hardware and make yourself one. It's something that everybody should have. There's a lot of cool tripods here. I thought I'd bring in something that's a little unique to the way I shoot. This monopod is an RRSS. It's rated at 80 pounds. I bought it after I broke the head on a monopod. This has got a hardened 3/8 fastener all the way into the frame. I agree that in most situations the ball head is not appropriate on a monopod because there's too many axes. Manfrotto makes this 234, which is very, very strong. It's really simple. I've converted this one with a Sunway 60mm Arca Swiss compatible adapter. I do run Arca Swiss on everything. My reasons are different than his. The points he makes about quick release and strength and positive lock, that is a great product. For me, with Arca Swiss, particular to this system and to my macro projects, I want to be able to slide fore and aft very often. This one right now is balanced within 1/4 of an ounce, so I can move anything I want to around here. And there's a total of about 12.5 pounds mounted to this right now. So it's important to me just in terms of fatigue and smooth movement to have a balanced structure. This is a different style of a Wimberley gimbal. It's called a Sidekick, and very lightweight. It's portable. It's easy to slip off and almost put in your pocket. So, so with regard to using a tripod or not, sometimes it's portability, sometimes it's rules. But when I'm on a monopod and I'm birding or shooting a sporting event, this is the setup that I use, and it works very, very positively for me. The coupler here is an Arca Swiss ball head. This is rated at 135 pounds, and silky smooth, just surgically precise. Unless you have a real use for one, I'm not sure that they're a great value, but they do work very well. Really unique in the industry. So that's the stuff that I like, and fundamentally these parts and components become an insurance policy. If you're going to play, then you just need to have tools that work, and the descriptors that one of our probably most very experienced photographers use are very accurate. It just needs to work. This isn't about fluff. It isn't about labels. It isn't about junk. It's about stuff that works. And so don't get caught up in a lot of the labels. And if you get a chance to spend some time working with somebody that's got a tremendous amount of field experience, do so. Watch what they do, and they'll very quickly help you sort out, you know, what works and what doesn't, and what's worth money and what isn't. I have a lot of funny things that I use. Warren likes to give me a hard time about my frying pan and things, but remember that anything that is happening, you know, behind this lens is not something you ever see. So if duct tape works, or something's a little used, or something's a little unconventional, it doesn't matter. It doesn't show up in the image. If it helps you to get a good image, then that's what's important.
What's that lens you got there? That's pretty awesome.
This is a 600 f4.
Bad lens, man.
The other thing you mentioned is about being able to bounce your lens. I've got the lens lead, and then get the big lens on there, and depending if I have a battery grip on it or not, you can slide the camera forward or aft, so when you let go of the camera, it just stays right there. It's not gonna, that's
Right.
usually one of the first things I do if I've got the time is I sit there and I bounce it, push it forward or aft, and that way when I get, it's like a lot of times like the picture of the coyote up on the hill, I was shooting the coyotes down on the kill down here, swung around, looked up there, and I'd turn around like this. All I had to do is hit the shutter release and it was still on that coyote up there, and I didn't have it locked down.
Right.
So that's one of the little advantages there.
Well, I have 4 basic qualifications for tripods, and before I tell you those very briefly, I will tell you this. It is my belief that there is no bad tripod. Any tripod is great. I went through the new RSS catalog. They've got a really cool little thing called a ground pod. It's a nice little machined piece of aluminum, and it's wonderful, and it's almost 500 bucks. Well, if you take a $19 tripod and don't pull the legs out, you kind of have the same thing. So if you think your tripod isn't robust enough for the situation you're shooting in, don't pull the legs out, drop to a knee. But any tripod is a good asset, and it's very helpful regardless. This guy's got $1 million deal sitting on a cute little tabletop here. If you don't have one of those, go get one. They're handy for lots of things. And they just do a ton of different things, you know, hands-free or locked down. But remember that some photography is really about the scientific experiment, and that is to say that your actions need to be repeatable. Well, if you're not locked down on a tripod, they're not. Because movement is different, angle is different, lots of things are different. So being on a tripod is important. So here's my 4 rules. Fundamentally, a tripod needs to have what's called good torsional resistance. So put your hands on your tripod and go like this and see how much play you get out of it. This one has none. These are all machined. This is about a 1982 something. Probably owned by Grandpa, never came out of the closet. I bought it in this condition, looked just like it. So that's really important. Secondly, I don't like to have on most tripods, I don't like to pull out the small section. On this one I do, because this is a 4 series, it's very beefy. It has seals that will handle it. But he made the point about the fewer joints the better. On some of these bigger, heavier ones, doesn't really matter. And you can hear the air locks escaping. That's how well machined this is. So, you know, for a setup like this, you can pay, depending on where you get it and how you do it, you know, a couple $1,000s at the very top end. You can find these tripods in this kind of condition all the time for between 150 and 200 bucks. So, so I think that's a great value if you know what to look for. If you have any questions, ask somebody. This guy over here will talk your leg off, and he's just a great resource about tons of stuff. So just ask somebody and say, what's the deal? So the other thing that I really dislike is center columns. This has got what's called a flat base plate replacement. Center columns will take an otherwise great tripod and remove any reason that you have a tripod, because even if everything's locked down and solid, as soon as you put that center column in the air, you start to deal with flex, and you start to deal with tolerance in that joint, and those joints are not that good, and even if they are locked down good and you glue it tight, you still have this flex up here. So when you're wondering about how to manage vibration, you have to remember that you've got about a 1 in 12,000 ratio between the parallax pivot and the parallax arc at the face of about a 70 to 300 lens. That translates to about 1 inch of pixel slide at 1,000 feet. So that is to say, an average human hair is 1/1000th of an inch thick. So if you produce 1/1000th of an inch movement on the end of your lens, it's about 1 inch or 300 pixels play at 1,000 feet. So when you stop thinking about taking still images and start realizing that every time you squeeze the shutter, you're actually taking a very short movie, it starts to make sense. So if you put red food color on your hand and you went up there and put it on the wall and you pulled it off, you'd have a neat image. But if you put it on the wall and slide it only a tiny bit, it's not crisp. Well, as your shutter is open and you're taking your little video lit before it closes, I don't care what your shutter speed is. If you're not managing movement at the outside and the very low end of this scale, harmonic vibration, then your little video becomes something that's sliding around. And you can imagine what your handprint would look like. I mean, how many pixels do you want to slide your hand around? Because that's really what we're all trying to achieve, is something that's rock solid. We're managing vibration, we're managing our good discipline skills like that. So that's the tripod deal. The last thing that's really important to me is multi-positionable legs, and legs that will go clear to a 90. This allows me to spider clear down on the ground. Some of you guys have seen me do that with these tripods. And not only is it handy for macros, but you would be astounded at your point of view in terms of shooting through grass onto a pond versus shooting over the tops of the heads of the grass onto a pond. Shooting a puppy at carpet level versus shooting a puppy at adult visual level. It's a tremendous artistic liberation, I think, to have the flexibility to be able to go clear down on the ground. And then, of course, as he pointed out, when you're in these odd situations with a rock over here and a thing over there and the hill's going down over here, you really need to be able to move these things around, sometimes just to get the shot that you need. So that's my blurb on tripods.
The other thing is get long legs. A lot of people think, well, it's only tripod up here, but when you get on those side hills, you need those long legs to go down here, and a short leg to come up on the end. Because when I bought my big one, I wanted the tripod to come up to my eye level, and I've been at times where I've had to extend all the legs all the way to get it in the position I want. And then my legs are bad, so I can't kneel down. And you start taking pictures of birds, you're pointing the camera up like that, pretty soon you have to be kneeling down to look through the viewfinder.
Or astrophotography, if you're shooting the moon or something.
Yeah.
You just need it up there.
Would somebody else like to show the tripod? We'll work our way around and
Okay, this is my behemoth. This is my Vanguard hand-me-down, and my photo clam ball head. I absolutely love this, and I love Arca Swiss, especially with the L plate. It's been amazing so far. This is great for in the house, but it is extremely heavy, and I hate it for that fact. So I'm looking for my second tripod right now, a nice traveler style. Something I can throw in the suitcase or my purse, possibly. I'm looking at three-legged thing, Suray and Reged. So if anyone has any opinions on those, I'd be interested. But since I'm short, I can handle a shorter tripod and just take out the center column. That's what I'm looking for.
okay. Anybody else? I see other tripods here.
I brought my, is it pronounced Giottos? Giottos?
I think it's Giottos, but I don't know.
It's got multi-positions. I bought this mainly due to size and weight. Something I can take with me when I'm backpacking. This is one that the center column will come out.
Yeah, you're fine.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Gotta get the kiddo.
Thank you again.
Good. Thanks, guys.
Thank
We'll see
you.
ya.
It does have the spring hook on the bottom for a sandbag to weight it down. The center column does come out and converts to the monopod. What I guess I don't like about it, due to just the size, when you do go fully extended, I do find myself using the wireless shutter release a lot more because I do see some movements. It does come apart relatively easy. You just thread the other leg off and got your monopod. I think I gave about 200, 180 for this at the Expo in Bozeman. Came with the ball head on it. I've got no complaints with the ball head. I believe they rated this for 12 or 14 pounds. That sounds about right. all in all, I don't really have any complaints. All the joints real smooth. When I get out in the moisture, I have noticed they do tend to ice up and you gotta fight them a little bit. I don't have a whole lot of experience with different tripods, so I can't say yay or nay, but for what I've been doing, it does work. It's fairly flexible. I can't quite go flat.
You ever get stuck where you can't quite go flat? Lay it down on two legs. And
Yeah.
bring your head up to the
Compensate.
portrait and you can make it work. This is a Yoto's MH1002, I think. And it's got a very positive lockup. That's a nice little ball head.
I've been very happy with it so far. The feet on it does have retractable spikes, so if you're outside or on wood floors, you can adjust. All the joints are 8th turn to release. Fairly well sealed. You can hear the air exchange.
All right.
Our tripod's a little different, but I've been using this for my photography because it's the only one that I have. And it's really for video, and it's kind of cumbersome. But the one thing I don't like about it for photography is I can't, the legs don't come out. So it won't, and it doesn't, the other thing is that it kind of goes, it doesn't go up that high really. It's about, you know, I think it's up to about there. But the one thing it's really good for video, I guess, and for, at least for working with a small camera, like the 5D, I mean, you couldn't put a big camera on here. But the nice thing about it is that it does, it does panning. And so if you wanted to do video, and then it has different tensions. So if you wanted to go really slowly, you could do that. And the same with the tilting, it does that also. You have to unlock it first, but you can do different, so you can do really slow and really, so I'm gonna have to get another tripod, you know, for photography, but right now I'm using it, and then this is the plate that comes off, it's kind of big. And one thing I have to be really careful with is that when I put it back on here, that I have to make sure that it doesn't lock with this, because this will come right out, and then you can lose that screw, so when you put it in, you have to tighten it in with this here, but I found out recently that there's some extra ones underneath here, so if I do lose it, I can
Built-in spares.
yeah, it has spares, because I'm sure that that's happened to people, but it's a good tripod. I think it was about $800 for this tripod, but I believe I've seen another one that's the same type, but it was like 2 or 3 times as much, but it actually gets a lot higher. So that's the one problem I run into. So,
Couldn't ask for a better setup for painting.
yeah,
It looks really smooth.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
very smooth. It's supposedly better than a lot of the other ones that are out there. We did some, you know, research, and I just needed something lightweight because I can't handle, you know, going out on shoots. If I have, you know, if I'm home or if I'm shooting in a studio, it's one thing, but if I have to go somewhere, then I have to be able to carry it, you know, with all my other stuff. So it's been pretty good so far. So that's about it.
Okay, would somebody else like to show theirs?
I don't even know how mine works, you know, the salesman set it up and said, it looks good. Actually, Curtis had brought in his Gitso, is that right? And I was kind of showing you after the one class, so I stayed around and listened, so that's the first time I had seen the heads that, or the legs that fold out to the sides further, so not sure if mine go out to 90 degrees flat or not. Right. Yep. So I've got a much heavier ball head on mine than what I have camera or lens to support, but I thought if I'm going to get one, I might as well get one that's heavy duty, and that usually translates into longevity as well. So it does have the center column, and this one, and I haven't played with it yet, but in the demo it also, it's a articulating center head, so you can put it, hang your camera from the bottom and then have your lens out to the side, similar to more like what an L bracket will do for you. So Like I say, I haven't played with it a whole lot. It was solid, and it was had some of the features I was looking for. So I'm anxious to play with it, because the one I had before is just a $49 Best Buy one that I used to use with my point and shoot cameras, and it had a lot of limitations with the adjustments on the head. So I'm really anxious to be able to use the ball head and be able to get to the angle I went to much more quickly than all the adjustments I had on the other heads. So
And what was the brand of the tripod?
this is the Geodos.
Okay, and then
Yep.
the head is a Cerium?
Suru-
Were you asking about
The shoe rays, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already done a lot of research on it. Posted in camera, they sell them, they really recommend them too.
Yeah, and that's where I got this. Yeah.
Well, since you're standing up, you wanna show us yours next?
Mine's new to me, and I was tired of Lindsay ones, so I kind of went over to it's in Europe. And I haven't played with it too much yet, but I like it because it's stout. And it doesn't move very much, so. And I need to play with it more.
It looks nice and solid.
It's solid, it is heavy, yeah, it's not when
Can I
you
see how heavy it is?
tote with you.
Oh, that's not bad.
Oh. It's compared to my other one, it's stout. At least it gives you a nice case and stuff with it.
I bought the one that Curtis, the first one he mentioned, it's Manfrotto. I know very little about it, I have not played with it, but he could probably tell you more about it than I could. The legs do come out the side, this comes out. You wanna sell it, Curtis?
Well, this one's really easy to function with. It's just a drop down here, and it goes, you know, clear to a 90, so you can spider flat out. They all come with this reversible center column. There's this little piece in the bottom that comes out, and that actually replaces the top plate. My personal preference is to take this off and leave it at home, always. So I never run with a center column. But that replaces that. This is a very functional head, locks down tight, no drift. You know, you can spend anywhere from $100 to $1,500 on a head if you want to, but you need to get something you can start with and work with. So great setup. This is unique in the Manfrotto lineup, in that none of the others actually do that full 90 extension. These have to be adjusted depending on your shooting frequency. I usually tell people about once a year, and that is to say that these flip levers, now this one happens to be set up pretty tight, you can hear it really snap in. Diane, who normally is here with me, has one of these. She has real tender hands, and so we kind of went through a tutorial in terms of adjustment. She has hers adjusted so loose that it'll barely hold the tripod up, because it makes these levers very easy to flip. Now these are not difficult, but 1/8 of a turn once a year on this nut with it relaxed is all the adjustment you'll ever need, and you will have to do it occasionally, but it's not a problem. And so if you ever notice that it's kind of relaxing down on you a little bit, take your little wrench, put it on there, open it up so that the bolt is loose, 1/8 of a turn, try it. So that's pretty much it. And what was your total cost with freight on this?
About $117.
That's for the tripod and the head. Now, none of these are still manufactured, and they're all pretty cool. They just work. And this is a great example. Put your hands on it. There's absolutely no torsional rotation. So well machined. It's a nice outfit. This one looks like it's about a week old. It's in fabulous shape.
I will add one other thing, and if you've been in my class, you've heard me talk about it before. I will absolutely scream at you if I see you put your camera on top and that big lens and throw it over your shoulder and go for your walk. Because I have seen more cameras and lens hit the ground with the people doing exactly this.
And
So
you see people doing that all the time.
I do, all the time. And if you watch people at any of the bigger shows, you'll see it commonly. They put it on, they pick the tripod, we're just going over to there, goes over the shoulder, the strap's hanging down behind them, and they're walking along. Which means you're resting all of your gear on about 3 threads. and hoping that your quick release plate doesn't come loose. So I tease that if you're doing that, it means I get your camera, or at least your lens, because you don't want it anymore. And that's your sign that you're trying to buy a new one. So just remember, they're great, use them. That's the hardest part of tripods, remembering to use them. But don't leave your camera on it and throw it over your shoulder and start walking unless you've got the camera strap or something in your hand. So when it falls, it will eventually, just like hard drives, they will eventually quit on you. It's going to happen someday. And you'd much rather have it come around and hit you in the butt and go, oh, that could have been ugly, than take the second step and you hear the shatter on the ground, and then you just keep walking because tears are running down. You don't want to look at the camera anyhow.
But then on the other hand, when you put that big lens of the camera on the strap across your shoulder and you put the tripod up there and it hits your LCD in the back, have a protector on it.
Yeah. So just be careful with them. If anybody wants to look at any of the equipment, or have questions, obviously you're welcome to. If not, we will hopefully see everybody next month. Keep shooting, and I will post the photo contest here, like I said, early next week.
Legs up. If I got legs up this high, always, you gotta be careful so when you're walking, if you don't lift these up a little bit, you'll catch stuff. But the camera and the lens are sitting on my shoulder when I'm doing it.
Not dangling behind you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I do have, on the plate, I do have the screws so it can't slide off.